Hello, I'm Mika and Magbilang from 10 Piece, and I'll be trying to recite the different accounting titles that we have in accounting. So let's start off with Alore. So A in Alore stands for or means that ito yung pagmamayari ng isang negosyo or what the business owns. And for liability, ito yung utang ng isang negosyo where we have the obligation to pay for our debts. And sa owner's equity, yun na yung puhunan o kapital ng negosyo. And revenue for kita ng negosyo or income. And lastly ay expenses na yun ang kagastusan ng isang negosyo. Or what we can also call expenditure. So, dumako naman tayo sa mga different accounting titles that we have in LR. So, assets, we have the keywords Canes Beef Pel. So, C for Canes Beef Pel is cash, where we have two types, cash on hand and cash in bank. Where sa cash on hand, pwede natin to gamitin for immediate purposes, immediate use. And for cash in bank, ito ay pwedeng i-deposit sa bank. At kasunod naman ay accounts receivable, and interest receivable, and notes receivable. At ang notes receivable at accounts receivable ay somehow magkaugnay or related kasi we use the promissory note for notes receivable na ito ay for written or agreements para sa isang negosyo. And next ay King's supplies. Supplies naman ay ito yung mga unused supplies sa negosyo. And then King's building. Ito yung building, yung mismong negosyo. Yung negosyong yun ang building. And next ay King's Beef. Inventory. Sa inventory naman, ito ay intended to be used but not yet used. King's Beef. And furniture and fixture. Sa furniture naman, ito ay mga bagay o kagamitang movable. Samantalang sa fixtures ay non-movable. Examples ng movable items or furnitures ay tables, chairs, and so on. At sa fixtures naman ay parang sinks and so on. King's Beef. Prepaid expenses. So sa prepaid expenses naman ay these are already like advance payment or already paid but not yet incurred. Hindi pa nagagamit pero nabayaran na natin in advance. And King's Beef Pel. Equipment and tools. Equipment naman and tools. Ang equipment ay kinakailangan ng electricity. Samantalang sa tools ay ito ay kinakailangan ng ating kamay na pwede natin gamitin na hindi na kinakailangan ng electricity. And lastly naman ay ang land. At itong land nga ang isa sa nag-appreciate, its value appreciates kumpara dun sa lahat ng binanggit ko sa assets. Kasi all of those depreciates, the value depreciates. Dumako naman tayo sa liability. And when we say liability, ito ay yung ating obligation para bayaran ng ating utang or debts sa isang negosyo. And kung saan, we also have keywords, STU, na ang A stands for accounts payable and for notes payable. And let's say, parang may kaugnay ang notes receivable at notes payable. At dahil sa notes payable, dito natin binabayaran ng ating mga utang sa negosyo sa pamamagitan ng written agreements that we use promissory note for this. And next ay utilities payable, S for salaries payable, and P for taxes payable, dito natin binabayaran ng ating buwis sa negosyo para hindi tayo matambakan o lumaki ang ating interes sa isang negosyo. And next ay interest payable, and U for unearned income, and lastly ay mortgage. It is a long-term liability that includes closed property and so on. Ngayon naman ay dumako tayo sa owner's equity. And for owner's equity, we only have two keywords to remember, which are C and D. But when we say owner's equity nga ulit, ito ay yung ating capital sa negosyo. And where we have C for capital nga, and D for drawing, where drawing, this is the withdrawal of the owner of the business for business purposes. Dumako naman tayo sa revenue. And when we say revenue ay ito nga ang kita or income ng isang negosyo, where we have the keywords SRS law. And for S, we have service income. It is best para kumita ang isang negosyo. R for rent income, and S for sales, and which is very important, necessary when it comes to business. Kasi with sales, we are able to boost or umundad ang ating business para makilala rin ng mga tao sa iba't ibang mundo. Para din ito kumita, kaya nga ang revenue ay kita ng isang negosyo. And next ay SRS at legal income, O for others income, and lastly ay commissions income. And lastly, we have expenses. And for expenses, ito yung mga madalas nating gamitin sa negosyo sapagkat itong kagamitan ito ang magiging bunga ng pag-unlad ng business, which we have the keywords trust and air. And for T naman, T stands for taxes and licenses, which is very much obliged para magsimula ang isang business. And next ay trust. R for rent service, rent expenses. U for utilities expenses. Trust. S for salary expenses. And another S for supplies expenses. And then trust. T for transportation. And transportation, examples of transportation ay delivery fees, fares, and so on. And A for advertising expenses. These are the things that we need para ma-advertise na natin ang isang product or sales para kumita ang isang negosyo. And I for insurance. Insurance expenses ay it doesn't mean para lang matulungan ang business, pero nakakatulong din ito sa buhay ng isang tao na kung saan we can use insurance para to pay for emergencies or so on, such as education insurance, hospital insurance, and so on. And lastly naman ay R for repair and maintenance. Moreover, we also have income statement and balance sheet. And for income statement, when we say income statement, ito ang resulta ng isang business operation, kung saan we have the formula for this, which is R minus expenses. And sa balance sheet naman, ito ay it gives the financial condition of a business. And where we also have a formula for it, which is A plus liability, A equals liability plus owner's equity. And we also have the different forms, which is report form and account form. And pag sinabi nating reports form, dito natin makikita ang assets, liability, and owner's equity na magkahanay-hanay. And then for accounts form, dito makikita ang assets, liability, and owner's equity, but ang assets ay makikita sa left side of the paper, and ang liability naman ay makikita sa right side of the paper, at ang owner's equity ay sa right side din ng paper but bottom right. And not only that, we also have different steps such as single step and multi-step. And let's say na ang single step it has a faster process than multi-step, kasi when it comes to single step, ito ay by service business lang. Meanwhile, for multi-step, kinakailangan ng madami pang procedures para matapos ang isang product. And kaya nga it is by merchandising business. And lastly, we have debit cards and credit cards. And yes, parehas silang cards na pwede natin gamitin dalawa silang cards na pwede natin gamitin sa pangbayad. Pero when it comes to debit cards, ito ay base sa pagbayad ng mga products na sa sarili nating money. And when it comes to credit naman, ay yung perang ginagamit natin sa pangbayad ay galing sa bank, na once na nagamit natin, kailangan din natin bayaran para magamit ulit natin sa pagbayad ng mga bagay or emergencies. And that's all. Once again, I am Magbilang from 10 Piece, and this is my major PT for TLE.